Hello, my name is Mr. Namrado, and today we're going to talk about how the Arizona Constitution empowers citizens with the initiative and the referendum. An initiative is a citizen proposed law that is passed, first petitioned by citizens and then ratified by citizens. And a referendum is an opportunity for citizens to vote on disapproving of an entire bill that was passed by the legislature or parts of a bill that were passed by the legislature in Arizona. Initiatives are created in the state of Arizona when a citizen files a petition with the Secretary of State that has met a signature threshold. That signature threshold is 10% of the total number of electors in the last gubernatorial election. According to political science professor Tony McClory, that can be as high as 230,000 signatures. And on top of that, they'll need to have more, because when the Secretary of State reviews petitions, they often invalidate up to 20% of them. Once a citizen files this initiative with the Secretary of State, if it happens before 4 months or up to 4 months before the next election, then it will appear on the next ballot election. And citizens will have an opportunity to vote on that initiative. So it's on private citizens to deal with the petitions and to draft this measure. And once the measure passes by a simple majority, it is proclaimed by the governor and comes into law. A referendum, however, may begin either with private citizens, with the people of Arizona, or with the legislature. Once a non-emergency bill is passed in the legislature, 90 days are required for it to wait until it goes into effect. During this 90-day period, citizens can file with the Secretary of State again to cancel part of or the entire bill. And the threshold for this one is lower. It's only 5% instead of 10% of the total electors in the last gubernatorial election. Both processes, the initiative and the referendum, must be ratified by a simple majority of qualified voters. And once these go into law, after they are proclaimed by the governor, they cannot be overridden by the legislature and they cannot be vetoed by the governor. In fact, the legislature can only rule on these measures if they are trying to further the goals of the measures. And in fact, when they enter the statutes, they begin with a clause saying, "Be it enacted by the people of Arizona," whereas most laws begin with, "Be it enacted by the legislature of Arizona," to distinguish between these two. Now, there are pros and cons to this kind of direct democracy. The initiative allows citizens to have a direct say over their own laws, and this is especially helpful when a legislature is being influenced by powerful interests, like rail tycoons, something that happened in Arizona's history, or other kinds of interests. Industrialists were another kind, or miners, mining companies, things like that. Land rights were an important issue in the history of Arizona. The cons, however, of an initiative are that the citizens that are creating these laws don't have experience in legislation and might not know very much about laws or about the potential impact of that law on the state. For example, these laws have to be self-funding. If they are going to be initiated by a citizen, then the initiative itself has to provide a measure for how it's going to fund itself. And citizens without legislation training or experience might have trouble with that. The referendum has the same pro in giving citizens voice, but it has the additional pro that it rules on bills that have already been passed by a legislature that is full of veterans, know what they're doing. For the cons, it's the same cons. That's the citizens making this very important decision on legislation, in part or in whole, are also not experienced, and they might not be very aware of the consequences of their decision. But both the initiative and the referendum support the idea of direct democracy that is found in the Arizona Constitution by creating a mechanism for what the Constitution calls the reserved powers of the people, which echoes what's in the federal Constitution as well, and creates a process to make that a reality for the people of Arizona.